Hello, and this is another Canto, since it's another week, and this time it's Canto 25, which is a continuation of Canto 24, basically. We're still in the bolgia of the thieves, and we know that thieves are in a snake pit, and they are basically snakes also. And what happens is there's various types of changes or metamorphoses, all of them with an evil tip or uh, result with them. And at the end of 24, we were introduced to Bonnie Fucci, which was a bit of a thug and also a bit of a thief. And he was not too happy about being identified, so he basically told Dante, I'm going to give you a prophecy which is to your hurt. Prophesied Dante's exile from Florence, and that was, of course, not the first time that Dante had gotten a prophecy such as this. Now we start Canto 25. When he had finished saying this, the thief shaped his fist at the figs and raised them high, cried, "Here, God, I've shaped them just for you." Basically, at this point, he's essentially giving God the finger. Then on, all those snakes became my friends. One of them at once crawled around his neck as if to say, "That's all you're going to say," while another twisted around his arms in front, tied itself into so tight a knot between the two he could not move a muscle. Pistolia, why not resolve to burn yourself to ashes, ending all, since you've done more evil than your founders? Throughout the circles of this dark inferno, I saw no shade so haughtily towards his God, not even he fell from thieves' high walls. And he's referring to Campanius, who was in the circle with burning sands. He was a blasphemer and portrayed as a definitely haughty and very proud individual. This one says Dante's even worse. Here we see Hunt Emerson's cartoon version of what's gone on. Right. Ooh, that's a neat trick. Ask him who he is. Boy, who are you? I'm Vanni Fucci. Vanni Fucci, he was another Florentine bastard, a swaggering bully and a gangster. What did you do to bring you here, Fucci? I'm ashamed to tell you, but I'm obliged to tell you the truth. I stole stuff from the treasury of Pistoia Cathedral, let an innocent bloke take the rap. Oh, shame. Philosophy. Ah! Take that, God. It's all your fault. Ah! Now, we'll see what Dr. Bartolini has to say. Her commentary. Beginning sequence of Inferno 25 functions as a conclusion to Inferno 24, which ended Vanni Fucci's lacerating political prophecy. Now the thief engaged in extreme defiance of God, with his fists raised in an obscene gesture, his speech violent. Take that, God! God, I squared him off for you. Till you silence for the serpent. As a result of the silencing of Vanni Fucci, the serpents become Dante's friends. Given that the serpents will be revealed to be sinners, this bolgia's sinners alternate between original human shape, the shapes of many and diverse kinds of serpents. Thought of them as friends is quite unsettling. Moreover, the idea of the serpents as friends sets the stage for the socially macabre aspect of this bolgia, part of the dramatic unfolding of Inferno 25. Since serpents are sinners in serpent form, the sinners are attacked by their own erstwhile friends and comrades. This passage is instructive in terms of the ongoing distinction that Dante establishes between the actual sins that because never repented, places sinners in hell. The underlying vice that originally prompted a given soul to sin. In the case of Vani Fucci, as with Campanio, the underlying vice is superbia, that is pride. Campanio's case, the actual sin is blasphemy, while in Vani Fucci's case, the actual sin is theft. But in both cases, the underlying vice is pride. Pride left unchecked drove both souls to sin. So now we continue. Without another word, he fled. Then I saw a raging centaur gallop up, roaring, "Where is he? Where is that untamed beast?" I think Allah Baramea does not have as many snakes as he had on his back, right up to where his human form began. On his shoulders, just below the nape, a dragon, his wings spread wide, was crouching, spitting fire at whoever came its way. To have a centaur, a raging beast, as most of them were, calling him an untamed beast, he must be bad. And my master said to him, "That was Pecos." More than once in the grotto far beneath Mount Aventine, spilled blood to fill a lake. He does not go on the same road as his brothers because of the cunning way he committed theft when he stole his neighbor's famous camel herd. Then his evil deeds came to an end beneath the club of Hercules. He struck 100 blows. He had felt 10. While he was speaking, Pecos galloped off. At the same time, 3 shades appeared below us. A guide and I could not have seen them there. As discussed in Inferno 24, the 7th bolgia features metamorphoses, processes through which essence changes its outward shape. In Inferno 24, serpents bind one of the sinners, Bani Fucci, burns and goes up in smoke, becoming a pile of ash, and then is reborn and returns to human form. You may recall that from the last canto. This metamorphosis is a perverse and immoral version of death and resurrection is indeed the image of the phoenix, featured in Inferno 24, was used in Christian iconography to represent the resurrection of Christ. The perversion of fundamental Christian mysteries continues in Inferno 25, where there are 2 further metamorphoses, which we'll see in a minute. The 7th bolgia, Dante uses the concept of metamorphosis, a process through which essence changes its outward shape, as a means of perverting the most fundamental Christian mysteries. It simultaneously perverts the most natural biological events that constitute self, sex, and birth. In this way, as he destroys the very foundations of selfhood, Dante indicates that Christianity and its core mysteries support the constitution of the self. Negation of the constitution of selfhood, the 7th bolgia, also has a social dimension. Dante carefully scripts this bolgia in order to deny the sinners their names. Their names are withheld until after they have undergone a change in shape. These souls do not receive the most fundamental marker of selfhood historicity, their names. This is one thing that adds to confusion of this bolgia, as well as the various changes, people changing into snakes and vice versa. And as I said last week, said in class, that if you are confused, that's reasonable and expected. Okay, is trying a way to do just that, get us into the start of this particular bolgia. More precisely, these souls do not receive their names until they are no longer the selves which their names belong. Or better, they receive their names when they no longer appear to be the selves to which their names belong. As we stipulated previously in the commentary on Inferno 24, Dante's point, like Ovid's, is that the self remains indelible for all eternity, despite being personally violated and transformed. Now we continue. They have not cried out, Who are you two? At this, we cut our conversation short to give our full attention to these three. We didn't know who they were, but then it happened, as often it will happen just by chance, that one of them was forced to name the other. What did Shifan go to? Yes. And then, keep my guy from saying anything, I put my finger tight against my lips. Now, my reader, you should hesitate to believe what I say. There's a little wonder. I, the witness, scarcely can believe it. This is sort of Dante's little fun way of adding verisimilitude to his story about how social ties are evoked in order to be monstrously violated. Thus it happens that one sinner names another, an event Dante introduced with the ambiguous pronouns typical of his canto. One of them called out the other's name. The sinner who speaks asks his comrades where another sinner had gotten to. This is such a simple question, the sort that occurs in social units all the time, many times a day. Here, the question hides a sinister reality. This bolgia behooves one to keep tabs on one's comrades, for a friend disappears from sight. May well resurface as a serpent, and in fact, the simple Berish Jaffa gotten to heralds a sinister outcome for the 6-footed snake in verse 50 turned out to be none other than that guy. Quickly reappears as a 6-legged serpent who attacks Agnel with the result that they are transformed into one creature. What kind of transformations do we see in Canto 24-25? This bolgia, when some thievius companions in human form wondered why another thief in human form is missing, they have cause for alarm because a thief in human form has been transformed into a thief in the form of a serpent or snake or other reptile. We see this when the devious Aeneas mist, Sifano, quickly reappears as a 6-legged reptile. Text Agnel, as a result, they are transformed into one creature. When a snake or reptile bites or wraps itself around the thief, one of 3 things can happen. The thief is consumed by fire, reduced to ashes, then be refashioned in his own form again, much like the mystical bird, the phoenix, is consumed by fire, then is reconstituted to a young bird again. 2, the thief and the snake or reptile can be united in one body. Or 3, the thief can become a snake or reptile, while the snake or reptile becomes a thief. 4. Now we'll continue with our journey in this canto. I was watching them, all of a sudden, the serpent, and it had 6 feet, shot up and hooked one of its wretches with all 6. The middle feet had hung the sinner's stomach. The front ones grabbed him by the arms, hit him first in one cheek and another. The serpent spread its hind feet around both thighs, stuck its tail between the sinner's legs. Up against his back, the tail stood stiff. No ivy ever grew to any tree so tightly twined, the way that that hideous beast had woven in and out its limbs with his. Then both started melting like hot wax, and fusing, they began to mix their colors, so neither one seemed what he was before. Just as a brownish tint ahead of a flame, some burning page, and it's not black completely, though the white is dying. Here we see again Hunt Emerson's cartoon depiction. And they're saying, "Hello, who's that up there?" Uh-oh. And you can see the transformation, fusing of the two to one rather hideous serpentine creature. Here is Shando Burke's rendition of Dante's Divine Comedy into modern Los Angeles. This is some kind of strip mall. He seems obsessed with McDonald's arches, doesn't he? But all kinds of snakes and their snaky thing. The social community that forms in the second bolgia is decidedly more sinister than, for instance, this community that we glimpse in the fifth bolgia. There, Giampolo offers to betray his fellow grafters to the malabration, use their secret signal to summon his comrade from the safety of the pitch, thereby leave them open to attacks from devils. The seventh bolgia, in contrast, the mediation of violent devils is no longer necessary. One thief directly attacks the other, inflicting on his comrade the transformative abuse he himself had previously suffered. The thieves are in their human shape. They are victims of their comrades in their serpent shape. They are in their serpent shapes. Previous victims are now perpetrators, intent upon victimizing fellow thieves. It's difficult to ascertain who's who as we read the Canto. Dante systematically uses pronouns instead of names and blurs identities as he recounts the metamorphosis. Only by careful tracking of the pronouns can we reconstruct a storyline which protagonists have names. Giving the last two characters their names only in the very last verses of Inferno 25, only as the text is about to leave them behind, Dante reinforces the loss of selfhood and identity, this bolgia of in mallotransformation explore. In effect, Dante tells the story of the thieves in such a way that each is at risk of becoming no one during the course of the action. Obviously, Inferno 25, first metamorphosis, second metamorphosis, the bolgia converse image is formed that is two and no one. So look at metamorphosis number two. Two become one, and two become no one. Mallocopulation, incarnation. The first metamorphosis of Inferno 25, six-footed serpent. This is Chafa, soul of a sinner that intertwines its body, man's body, for a test replay copulation. Latin copula means bond or tie. All through this bolgia, the serpents are seen tying and binding the sinners in their disgusting coil. Dante here scripts considers obscene sexual intercourse, obscene copulation. In fact, given the violence of the snake's assault, this is not sexual intercourse but rape, violent and degrading physical intimacy imposed on one being upon another. The seventh bolgia, Dante is depicting the violation of one being by another through an obscene and violent copulation. Strict violence and perversion of this bolgia. Copulation is a process whereby two differentiated substances of one sexual intercourse while simultaneously remaining two. If we were to exalt this biological process whereby two become one would be known, as it is in fact, various media polite, philosophical, by the name love. Dante in Scanzona specifically defines love as a power that can make two essences into one. Whatever the philosophical decisions or formulas, Inferno 25, Dante has successfully dramatized a version of the incarnation. Image perversia is a perversion of the fundamental Christian doctrine of Christ's dual nature. It is evoked figure of the griffin in earthly paradise, which is by formatting. And by the way, we'll see that once we get to purgatory. Oh, someday. Word by formatting is uniquely for the griffin / Christ. The haps in comedia is a Christological variation of metamorphosis, which a sinner becomes not two form but no form. Moreover, word by forme in Purgatory 32 echoes form a duplex from a key Albian text these metamorphoses. The dark Albian account of Salmaca's rape hermaphrodite Ilias, two protagonists become a new biform, which seems neither or both. No longer two but one, although by form, one could not have that shape, a woman or a boy, for it seemed neither, and it seemed both. That should give us all pause for thought. The process whereby two differentiated substances become one, while simultaneously retaining being two, is also applied to the idea of Christ. The doctrine of incarnation is that Christ is both two and one, fully God and fully human. This is the penultimate mystery of Paradise 33, dramatized as the second of the three circles in the media. The second circle is the one on which a human image can be enjoyed, despite being painted the same color as the circle itself. The fact that the human image can be seen is a way of communicating which is differentiated. There are indeed two components to Christ's nature. The fact that the human image is painted the same color as the circle itself is a way of communicating that Christ's nature is undifferentiated as one. So it's what we affirm in the incarnation. One person, two natures. And two distinct natures. As the first metamorphosis of bolgia 7, that is Inferno 24, pantomimes the resurrection, so the second metamorphosis of bolgia 7 pantomimes the incarnation. Dante's dramatizations, take the form of infernal perversions. Note that perversion is Dante's category explicitly stated the image label, Imagine verse, with which he defines product of the second metamorphosis. Now let's continue with the reading of the Canto. The other two who watched began to shout, "Oh, Agsno, if you could see how you're changing, you're not yourself, you're not both of you." Two heads had already fused to one, features each flowed and blended to one face, two were lost in one another. Two arms each were four blurred strips of flesh, thighs with legs, stomach and chest, sprouted limbs, eyes are never seen. Each former likeness now is blotted out. Both in neither one seemed picture of deformity. And then it sneaked off slowly. This is a lizard darting from hedge to hedge, and the stinging lash dog days heat zips across the road like a flash of lightning. So, rushing towards two remaining thieves, aiming at their guts, a little serpent, fiery with rage, black as peppercorn, shot up, sank its teeth, one of them, right where the embryo receives its food. Then, back it fell and lay stretched out before him. Wounded thief stared speechless at the breast. Standing motionless, began to yawn as though he needed sleep or had a fever. The snake and he were staring at each other, one from his wound, another from its mouth. Feeling violently, smoke was mingled. Let Lucian, at this moment beyond, be silent. Tells of poor Assidius and Sabellius. Wait to hear what I have in store. Ovid, too, is Cadmus and Artheus, though he metamorphosized one into a snake, other into a fountain. I feel no envy. For never did he interchange two beings, face to face, so that both forms already exchanged their substance, each one for the others. An interchange of perfect symmetry. Serpent split its tail into a fork, and the wounded sinner drew his feet together. Legs, both the thighs, closed in to join, in a short time fused, so that the juncture didn't show signs of ever having been there. While the cloven tail assumed the features that the other one was losing, and its skin was growing soft, under getting scaly. So his arms retreated into the armpits. The reptile's two front feet had been short and stretched length than has shortened. Beast's hind feet then twisted around each other, turned into the members man conceals, while the richest members, two legs. The smoke from each was swirling around the other, changing colors. Out the hair where there was none, stripping off the others. One rose up, others sank. Neither dissolved the bond between their evil stares, fixing eye to eye, exchanging face for face. The standing creature's face began receding towards the temple. Excess stuff pulled back. Ears were growing out of flattened cheeks, while excess flesh did not flee, but nose was fashioned for the face, lips puffed out just to normal size. Prostrate creature strains his face out long and makes his ears draw into his head. The way a snail pulls in its horns. Tongue, that once had been in one piece and capable of forming words, divided into a fork, while the others fork up. Smoke subsides. Soul had been changed to a beast, hissing off along the valley floor, other close behind him, spitting words. And here you can see Emerson's depiction of this. There's a snake biting the eye, and you see the smoke and the transformation. Pressing along here, and you see the final commentary. Well, there's something you don't see every day. True. Very true. In the third metamorphosis of the seventh bolgia, the second of Inferno 25, a serpent and a man exchange shapes. Double metamorphosis figures that seen cause violent perverse embryology. The process as described here is the immalavariant generation of the fetus described the great discourse on embryology, differentiation, purgatory 25. And as I've reminded everyone several times already, just read the Inferno, you're not getting the whole story of Dante's points about the afterlife and spirituality. That in one answer in the Inferno, another better one in Purgatorio, and the best in Paradiso. The attacking Serpentello of verse 83 pierces a sinner through the navel. Describe the embryological terms as the part where we first take our nourishment. It fixes its gaze on the sinner, catching him in a hypnotic snare which there is no escape. Followed, an obnoxious smoke emanates from the mouth of the attacking snake, from the wound to the navel of the thief, that forms a kind of amniotic sac around the two conjoined figures. Long and revolting process unfolds. Body part for body part is exchanged. Precise and graphic transmutation of man to a serpent. Embryology and birth, generation, and life suggests that Dante has shifted from metamorphosis to metanousios, Greek term that refers to change not of shape alone, but also essence or inner reality. Greek metanousios is equivalent of Latin transubstantiation, which is a technical term used by theologians for a change in which the bread and wine used in the sacrament of the Eucharist become the actual reality, body and blood of Christ. Truly, really, and substantially. Not a figure or symbol of Christ's body and blood, not merely the outward shape or external form of Christ's body and blood, Bread and wine become the true substance and reality of Christ's body and blood. In other words, substance or essence of the being is changed. Dante, I suggest, offers here an inmallow version of transubstantiation. This process not only shape is changed, but essence came by the Aristotelian word forma, which is scholastic means essence. This creation of new but horrific life, all the principles of divine creation are violated. Inferno 25, creation is an act of violent deprivation of one creature imposed upon another. It is not God's act of creation as a manifestation of his infinite love and generosity, as described in Paradise 7, Paradise 13, Paradise 29, nor is the love of the mother for the infant. Love is violated in this perverse embryology is God's love for his creation, and also the love of a mother for a child that gestates within her. Love for the embryo that's created within itself that differentiates into another. Even the hypnotic gaze of the serpentello, words of the psychologist Daniel Stern about the extraordinary and anomalous gaze exchange between mother and infant are highly relevant. First rule in our culture is that two people do not remain gazing into each other's eyes, mutual gaze, for long. Mutual gaze is a potent interpersonal event which greatly increases general arousal and evokes strong feelings, potential actions of some kind, depending on the interacting situation. It really lasts for more than several seconds. In fact, two people do not gaze into each other's eyes without speech for over 10 or so seconds unless they're going to fight or make love or already have. Not so with mother and infant. They lock in mutual gaze 30 seconds or more. The third metamorphosis we witness the perverse creation of new unities. I think in terms of the same mallow violation of principle of unity we saw in the previous metamorphosis, parsed into the same three categories. First, we have biological unity, mallow-perversion of embryology, gestation and birth, psychological unity, mallow-perversion of maternal love, and metaphysical unity, mallow-perversion, Christian doctrine, transubstantiation. Thus, you see there's a lot going on here, and that's maybe not clear in the first reading, but there's some intense changes going on. Here is a picture by Nelly of this bolgia. You can see over here, if you look closely, there's that centaur, Cacus, that was described in the beginning of the Canto. Of course, here is Dante and Virgil up there watching. Then he turned his new form back on him and said, shade left standing there, let Uso run on the valley on all fours the way I did. Then I saw cargo of the seventh hold exchanged and interchanged. Let the strangeness of it all excuse me, my pen has failed. Though the spectacle confused my eyes and stunned my mind, two thieves, not fleas, so sickly I did not recognize that one, certainly Gino Ciantato, he alone, of that company of three that first appeared, not change to something else. The other, who made you mourn the bell. And here, Dorothy Sayers is a final summary of all the changes in Canto. Antonello appears as a man and is blended with Stefano, who appears as a six-legged monster. Musso appears first as a man, has changed shapes with Francesco, who appears first as a four-legged lizard. And we got this guy, Chio, remains unchanged. Now, you got that? Got it all straight, right? Okay. Good for you if you do. Now, this course has some resonances in our time and applications. And to talk about this, I just want to read a short passage to start with from C.S. Lewis's Screwtape Letters. And we know what Screwtape Letters are about the imagined correspondence between a senior devil and his, quote, nephew, close quote, who is a new tempter. This senior devil is trying to give him some tips about what's going on. And this is, as you might note from the page number, is pretty deep into the book. And I think this particular exchange of advice, where the wormwood is trying to give some advice, is interesting. Applies to what we're talking about here. We'll just start out with the end of the advice. Then, of course, he, which is, by the way, the person the devil is supposed to tempt, then, of course, he gets to know this woman's family and the whole circle. Did you not see that very house she lives in is one that he ought never have entered? The whole place reeks of that deadly oil. Very gardener, though he has been there only 5 years, is beginning to acquire it. He didn't guess after a weekend visit carry some of that smell away from him. The dog and a cat are tainted with it. And a house full of the impenetrable history. For certain, it's a matter of first principle. Each member of the family must be in some way be making capital out of the others. You can't find out how. Guard as jealously as himself the secret of what really lies behind this pretense of this instant love. Whole house and garden are one vast obscenity. There's a sickening deep semblance in the description of one human writer of heaven. Regions where there's only life, therefore all that is not music is silent. Music and silence, how I detest them both. How thankful we should be that ever since our Father entered hell, no longer ago than humans, reckoning light years to express no square inch of infernal space, no moment of infernal time has been surrendered to either of these abominable forces. All has been occupied by noise, grandiloquent, audible expression, all that's exalted, ruthless, and virile. Noise, which alone defends us from silly qualms, sparing scruples, and impossible desire. We will make the whole universe a noise in the end. We have already made great strides in that direction with regards to earth. Melodies and silence of heaven will be shouted down in the end. But I admit we're not yet loud enough for anything like it. Research is in progress. Meanwhile, you disgusting little. Here the manuscript breaks off as resumed in a different hand. In the heat of composition, I find that I have inadvertently allowed myself to assume the form of a large centipede, and accordingly dictating the rest to my secretary. Now that the transformation is complete, I recognize it as a periodic phenomenon. Some rumor of it has reached the humans, and a distorted account of it appears in the poet Milton, with the ridiculous addition that such changes of shape are a punishment imposed on us by the enemy. More modern writers, some of the name like Shaw, however, grasp the truth. Transformation proceeds from within, is a grand, glorious manifestation of that life force which our Father would worship if he worshipped anyone or anything but himself. In my present form, I feel even more anxious to see you, unite to you, myself, in solemn embrace. Signed, Toadpipe, for his abysmal sublimity, Under Secretary Screwtape, TEBS, etc. Now, I think there's some good possibility that C.S. Lewis was influenced by Dante. He was certainly around a lot of people highly respected wrote about Dante. And even besides this, this is the idea that transformations like this that affect us in such a dramatic way are a punishment, but in essence are an expression. These days we are embracing these bondage transformations, changing ourselves, even though they want to change our essence, even though we do these transformations, they don't work that way. Of course, I'm referring particularly for a consideration of due regard for transsexual transformation, so men into women and men. And note that what was in Dante's hell and in C.S. Lewis's hell a punishment is embraced as a wondrous manifestation of individuality and independence. One author who clearly understands what is going on in this regard, transsexuality and our various forms of sexual behavior in the 21st century, is Carl R. Truman. I handed him to you before his book, The Rise and Triumph of the Modern Self, that sexual behavior is not the issue, or an issue about what it is to be human. What is the essence of humanness? Just what can we be as human beings? And needless to say, I shouldn't have to say, I can't give to you a 400-page book. I can give you at least one page and maybe see how his argument is going. And it's not completely fair to his argument just to take one page and see how he develops it on through the book. But I'm going to read to you at least this one page. That raises a matter of great significance. When we start to think about sexual morality today, we need to understand we're actually thinking about what it means to be human. Discussions of what does not constitute legitimate sexual behavior cannot be abstracted from that deeper question. On that point, the thinkers of the New Left are correct. One may disagree with their conclusions. I do so vehemently. But one must give them credit for understanding that when we address matters of sexual morality, we're actually addressing questions about the nature and purpose of human beings, definition of happiness, the relationship between individual and wider society, between men and women. Archbishop Charles Chapin summarizes the matter. Once the genie is out of the bottle, sexual freedom goes in directions and takes on shapes that nobody imagined. Ultimately, it leads questions about who a person is, what it means to be human. Acceptance of Freud's basic insight that sexual desire is constitutive of identity, this from infancy onward is therefore an anthropological, philosophical, political watershed. To concede this point means that debates about the limits of acceptable sexual expression are almost pointless because any attempt to arouse sexual behavior is then rendered an impressive move designed to make an individual inauthentic. And as it is, ironically clear, righteous, own uncharacteristically squeamishness on the matter of pedophilia, the attempt to set such a limit based on the intrinsic nature of certain sexual acts, ultimately arbitrary and politically motivated. So, there we have it. And that is, I think, a lot to think about. But also, I just want to show you this kind of little fun thing. Again, from time to time, it's good to see how Dante is in our society and influences himself, maybe sometimes in places where we don't expect. This is article from the Washington Post, April 22, 2016, about Snapchat. An idea that Snapchat has a new feature that features a face swap. How that kind of sounds, and kind of does a little bit like this Canto here. That's Canto 24 and 25. So here we go. Dante Alighieri explains Snapchat's exciting new face swap feature. If reader are slow now to believe, but I should tell you, there's no cause for wonder. For I, who saw it, can hardly accept it. Dante Alighieri, Inferno, Canto 25. Snapchat now lets you face swap with pictures from your camera roll. Headline, Verge. Big news, Snapchat fans. Popular social network has updated its unsettling fun face swap feature to let you swap faces with pictures right from your phone's camera roll. Getting this new feature up and working is simple. Download Snapchat's latest update, pull up your lens, set it to the new camera roll enabled version of the existing face swap feature. Then with Dante again, and just as if their substance were warm wax, they stuck together in their mixture colors, so neither scene may have been before, just as on paper kindled, where it still is not caught flaming full, it's colored dark, but not yet black, while white is dying off. New camera roll face swap only lets you use it photos that it believes contains a face. Then the two heads were already joined in one. When in one face where two have been solved, two incommensurable shapes appear to us. Results sure can be surprising. Every former shape was canceled there. That perverse image seemed to share in both. None, so slowly it moved on. Okay, and then we have an update. 5:05 p.m. A Snapchat spokesman has responded to our piece, following passage, the last canto of Dante's Paradiso. Oh, grace abounding, wherein I presume to fix my look on the eternal light, so long that I wearied my sight thereon. Thin steps I saw gathered, bound by love in one volume, scattered leaves of all the universe, substance and accidents and their relationship, as so together fused, after such a fashion that what I tell of it is one simple flame. I don't know whether I should be impressed that someone from Snapchat can actually quote last canto of Paradiso of Dante, or just wonder if they really understand it. But in any event, it's kind of impressive. Dante is being used in post in the Washington Post about Snapchat. That is all for this week.